Hello and welcome back to the Bristol Sword Squadron's YouTube channel. So this is part 2 of our protective equipment series, and in this part we're going to be looking at the stuff that you need for more intense sparring. So whether that is because you're upping your intensity level, whether it's because you're using a more substantial training weapon, so like a black fence or a steel, this is what we require at our club. So we're going to begin with the jacket.
So this is my jacket. All the sparring videos that you've seen of myself and Matt will be me wearing this jacket here. So this is the Spez jacket. I will say that this one is a very heavy jacket. You do feel it when you're wearing it. However, that's what you want because you want to know that when you're being hit, it's not going to come as much force. I will say that no jacket will ever stop the pain though, so make sure you practice your blocks.
Enjoy the pain. You're doing a combat sport.
Exactly, yes. So this jacket is brilliant. It says it is punch proof, so it's good to go against steel. This one I think was mainly designed for long swords and the larger weapons. Because I find when I take a higher guard, especially because as you've seen in our videos, we usually do saber, cutlass, that kind of single sword work. I often find the jacket rides on the side, which can leave my flank exposed. However, it's something that I've just had to become used to. So it's a case of I may be looking to upgrade jackets soon, and there'll be another video cursing your screens before long. But I would say this is a brilliant jacket though for if you're in a club that uses lots of different weapons, which is again myself and Matt often go to another club which they do use a variety of weapons. So when you don't know what you're up against, this one is a very good one to go against. It is on the quite expensive side. When I bought it, it was just over 300, or no, was it just under? It was around that mark. This is quite old jacket. It's durable. This has lasted me, I think, now for five-ish years, maybe longer. So it is definitely durable and it's long lasting. But yeah, so I would definitely say that this is a really good bit of kit to wear and essential for steel, and I would definitely say for us, we would say essential for black fencer use as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Yeah, so if you look in our sparring videos, you'll see that the jacket I use is actually it's a fencing jacket. It's a coach's jacket, which is why it's black. In sport fencing, you differentiate between coach and regular fencer or student fencer by a black jacket or a white jacket. And while that does have disadvantages if I'm doing something like longsword where I'm raising both hands above my head, in terms of what we do, so i.e. Later periods, sort of 17th, 18th century onwards, and mostly a single sword where I'm keeping the sword low in these sorts of guards, it works perfectly because those are the guards used still in modern fencing. So it does depend. If you are specialising in 17th, 18th, 19th century swordsmanship, which is mainly influenced by the French school, as is indeed modern sport fencing, then you may actually find it more beneficial to go for a traditional coach's jacket because it's as padded as something like this, but it's cut in a way that holding your sword.
I say my arms are restricted. The jacket naturally wants my arms to bend. Rather than being able to hold them out straight, so you are moving against the jacket. I just want to say something we referred to in the previous video of this little short series is the catch here. So once the jacket is done up, the catch is here, which means if the blade should be able to get underneath your bib of your mask, in theory, they should be able to catch it and stop it. However, of course, we've already talked about...
Go a bit closer to the camera.
Sorry, yeah. So, which is a catch just here. So, unfortunately, because it's all black, you can see my fingers disappear as I go in there. Yeah, so we always talk about wearing a gorget because that would still be an extra bit of protection. However, I would recommend if you are getting a fencing jacket to find one with a lip is preferable. Of course, not essential, but I would say it's definitely preferable because you don't want to take the risk if you can help it with that one. And this one is a zip jacket as well, so it's quite easy to get into and out of.
What's the size on that one, Sam?
This one, I know the size. If you've watched the previous video, you'll know I was caught off by this one. This one is a medium-sized jacket. Definitely, I've checked the label. So yeah, and I mean, you can see I'm quite a tall.
Do you know what your chest measurements are?
42.
42. So down 42. So that's in well, that's in British, probably European as well, measurements.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 42 equates to about a medium. So depending on, you know, what kind of jacket size you're looking to get.
As you can see, like with the t-shirt I'm wearing underneath, it makes it quite visible. So when I lift, you can see that the jacket rises because it naturally kind of goes up and round. I've not had like really any problems with this, and of course, if you bought, which we haven't got ourselves yet, however, we're both interested in getting them, is the Red Dragon breeches. That will probably protect your sides quite well with that anyway. So, but yeah, so.
Failing that, an inside or an outside guard with your sword will do just as well.
It's true, actually, yeah. Other thing I'll say about jackets-wise is occasionally make sure you take them out every now and again just to breathe. So occasionally just leave them outside, not in the rain, but leave them outside just to air them out, because especially if you're doing a long session outside, you will sweat, and these jackets do retain the smell. So you may want to think about.
Oh, Sam, maybe talk for just a quick moment about using that jacket with a small sword.
Yeah, I would prefer his jacket. Just because with regards to small sword, it's brilliant in the sense of the fact that I've been thrust by epee blades. I don't feel it as much. So even though I will be purchasing a plastrum soon, I haven't necessarily felt the need for one. But yeah, it does restrict the movement of the arm slightly. The jacket feels heavier, so you're not naturally as light and as nimble as you should be when using something like a small sword. So
yeah. So as you know, at our club, the primary focus is on sort of, as I say, 17th century onwards weapons. So primarily we're looking at small sword, broadsword and sabre. We're using them as fairly interchangeable terms, and then ancillary weapons. But we feel that this jacket is perfectly adequate for those, but maybe not the prime choice.
No, not that. I would definitely say that if you're a small sworder, that's your club, and you're using foil, small sword, and that's it. I would say that that's definitely not the jacket for you. There are other ones. So we've seen, like the officer's jacket, we've seen a lot of people using those, and we've heard lots of good reviews from them. So yeah, so I would say that kind of the officer's jacket may be better for you, or like Matt was saying, the fencing coach jacket that he has got hold of, because that you're being hit by a lighter weapon, so naturally you're not going to be hit with as much force, which is what the jacket I was just holding up is designed for. It's designed for a long sword coming in towards you rather than a dainty small sword.
That being said, the good thing about this jacket is if you have this jacket, you can still do small sword. You can do all the lighter weapons, but you're also then equipped for heavier weapons. So if you feel that you're maybe going to be going to multiple clubs where you're doing different degrees of sparring, that's something. If you're going into competition, that is a universally acceptable jacket in every competition. So there's something to consider there as well. So that is a more multi-purpose jacket. But if you are specialising, you might want a more specialist jacket. Should we move on?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at hand protection next. There's a reason we haven't included these in the first video, which is our light sparring kit, which is specifically for our club, is that we tend to use swords with a heavy degree of hand protection. So we're either using the Rawlings, which have a sort of half basket, or we're using something like a full basket hilt or a bowl hilt or something like that. So we haven't included these in the earlier versions, but nonetheless, you could have them. So we're going to look at two types of glove here. We have a light glove and a heavy glove. Who's the light glove by, Sam?
Red Dragon.
Red Dragon. So both Red Dragon products.
This is the Night Shop glove. So I'm assuming it's Red Dragon. So this one is the lighter one. I was able. If you're able to get them from the Night Shop itself, well done. I tried for a long time, but they were out of stock. But this one is, I bought this one directly from Fight Camp. So if you're ever in Fight Camp, it's often good to take a visit to the Night Shop there, because they often have products there that you can buy, and then you don't have to pay for the postage as well. But this one is the lighter glove. I use this for kind of the lighter form of sparring, so just foil, small sword. Occasionally I've used it for Rawlings sparring, so when there's a bit more action, so it might be a case of where Matt is using his basket hilt, but I don't have a black fenced basket hilt, so I may use kind of like this, because and I'll slide my arm guards down so that they are protecting my wrist. to make sure that's not exposed. But like we were saying, because the basket is quite sufficient in blocking around, blocking hits and keeping your hand safe, I don't tend to use the heavier gloves with that one. But yeah, so that's that one. My one, if you've ever seen me in the video and you've seen me in this kind of position, I don't know if you can see there, I'll hold it up, but mine is slightly ripped. That's not from use, I bought them like that because they were
second hand.
Yeah, they were second hand for it, so I bought them second hand like that. I will be repairing them at some point, but yeah, so it's not that they've done that whilst I've been sparring, that's a case of that's how it works.
But it is useful to point out, I use just ex-police riot gloves, but any light leather glove that will give you enough purchase on your sword would be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And I tend to actually use a light leather glove with almost every sword, no matter what I'm sparring, unless it has virtually no hand protection offered by the hilt, because I prefer a little bit more dexterity, and I think the trade-off between that and protection is one that I'm willing to make. But yeah, then they're very nice gloves.
Yeah, and very useful with that one, and they're not that expensive. I think they're around the £30 region with that one. So yeah, these are the Red Dragon gloves for the standard Red Dragon gloves. These ones you'll find most clubs use. This one has been heavily used. You can see that a part of it is starting to rip away. I've got to fix that one. It's just the branding, so it's not too much of a problem. But so that's kind of coming away. But this one's had heavy use, and they've served me very well. I would say that you definitely need these if you've got no form of hand protection. So I use these with my bowl hilt because they do give that. They do fit. They're comfortable. I am still wearing the glove in so that I can still use it with the dexterity of the wrist that Matt was talking about earlier. But yeah, I myself have been knocked quite a few times in the hand, which is why my fingers are taped up at the moment, actually. But yeah, I've been knocked in the hand a few times and it's caused injury. Not that I've been put off, but it's a case of I always prefer to wear a heavier glove when I can, just because I have existing injuries on my right hand, which means it's a little bit more dainty.
Although it's a very important point to raise, actually, that no matter what level of protection you're wearing, if you do this sport long enough, you are going to get injured at some point. So that is something that you need to accept. You know, if you're going to engage in a combat sport, you're probably going to get hurt at some point. All this equipment ever does is mitigate that and make the chances of injury less likely. But it's never going to take away entirely. In fact, Sam got this injury through these gloves.
Yeah, I was wearing these gloves. It is worth saying that there will be a video on our channel of the match where this happened. But it is worth saying that we were using equipment that wasn't necessarily. Well, it wasn't. It was but two bits of equipment that didn't necessarily have any flex, and neither has had much training in. Not that we were being silly, of course. We're very
it's a very important point in that you will see the video. In fact, when it's up, we'll put a link in the description of this one. But you'll see that the cut. Well, what I think was that the cut that did it was only a very light wrist rotation one. So you can never be sure what
and you can never be too careful. It's purely up to you. Like, you are doing a contact sport, contact art. You need to understand that there are risks to it. I've strapped my fingers up together. They're fine. They're heavily bruised, but they're fine because they're not broken. So in case of, and I've not been put off email. So it is worth to bear in mind that you can buy all the protective gear you want. However, it's not going to keep you 100% safe. And actually, if you go too extreme of protective gear, I think we'll say, with regards to what you're saying about the dexterity of the wrist, it says you can then become an easier target to hit.
Well, that's the thing, is do remember that ultimately, for pretty much most of us in HEMA, what we're doing is trying to recreate unarmoured fencing styles. So there is a point at which, and this is legitimately down to each individual, and I suppose down to each club to decide, but ultimately there is a point at which you end up with all this equipment on, you become tank-like, and your ability to perform the techniques in the manner written down in the manuals is compromised. So that's again down to each individual person to make their own call. But I certainly would say you need a heavier glove if you're doing something with steel. Pretty much, I mean, unless you're using something like a full basket hilt, which really can't accommodate a heavier glove, and I know some are made to original specs and simply can't, then in that case that'd be fine. But if you're using anything less than a full basket hilt, probably with steel you want a full glove. Again, that is ultimately down to the individual.
But you've been warned.
Certainly at our club you would need a heavier glove.
Yeah, I would say you want a heavier glove and to use as much as possible, because the thing is, well, especially if you're sparring someone, you never know you don't necessarily know them as a sparring partner. So luckily I know Matt quite well, and when we spar and we train together, we know that we're not going to exert ourselves with unnecessary force, whereas that can't always be promised when you're up against different people, especially new people, because they might be testing out the force that they can use in that case. The other thing to say about lots of protective equipment as well is it can also encourage lazier sparring if you over the top, because then you take the hit rather than blocking it. You learn to take the hit because you don't feel it rather than blocking it. In some ways, pain is a good teacher with HEMA. So
certainly, if there's no chance of being in any way hurt or injured, obviously we want to reduce injury as much as possible. But if there is no pain associated with being hit, then there's no penalty associated with being hit, and so the fear of the weapon disappears, and then you do see a lot of sloppy fencing appearing. And it's something, if you search up videos of HEMA, as I'm sure you have been doing, you'll see this. And if you are a HEMA practitioner, you know this to be true. But that's the relation between armour, fear of the weapon, and realism is a topic for another video, which I'm sure we might well do at some point
in the near future. Last one, so we're going to talk about is the leg protectors. So these are the Red Dragon leg protectors. I would say brilliant value for money. They go on the outside of they can fit on the outside of trousers. I've seen people wear them on their bare legs as well. They can fit under the breeches as well. Quite a few people can wear them lower down, and they don't cause any problems. They're easy to put on. I will demonstrate now. They clip off on the sides here, and then of course you would fit your leg on the inside of this bit, and then put the straps back round and then tighten it up. I would say
it is worth pointing out you can also slide them on.
Yes, you can also slide them on with great difficulty. It is worth saying that when you're storing these, because of course when you're travelling around, you may want to try and reduce space, so you may want to put them inside each other. I would say don't do that, because then you can force the shape to warp, and these will then stretch, which means they won't then fit your leg as well. I personally, when I'm storing these, put them in my bag and I tighten the straps to make sure that there's a little bit of pressure keeping it in its shape, because I want them to remain hugging my leg whilst I'm using them, rather than gradually becoming rattly, because then they'll slip down your leg and then you'll find they're not as not as good and efficient. These ones, as you can see, bend with the leg, so you get so if you do extend with the lunge, they do follow very easily, and it protects the knee really well. I've been hit directly on this, and even though it's a thinner bit of plastic, it's fine to be hit on. I would say these are kind of like the knee and just above the knee protection. So if I try and show kind of there, so you want is here, so you're still exposed on this part of your leg. Of course, that's where the breeches can come in, but I would say in our club we haven't said that they're an essential bit of kit to wear. It just can be, but it can hurt when you're hit there, so you may want to consider hitting up protection as well.
Ultimately it comes down to pain mitigation. Is pretty much whether you're being hit with certainly with any single-handed sword, whether it's steel or it's black fence or whatever, if you get hit across the upper leg, it might be painful, but it's very, very rarely going to cause any type of injury. Whereas being hit on the knee can cause injury. So even if you don't want to go with something as substantial as a full leg guard, do consider knee protection. And that's something, going back to the previous video, that's something I would say about the forearm guards as well, is even if you're deciding against forearm guards themselves, you do want something for the elbow. Same principle here. You can get independent knee guards. I know lots of people who choose to wear not the HEMA breeches, but the old style fencing breeches will actually choose to sew plastic guards onto the edge of it, so they cover the knee.
And that is worth actually mentioning, is that there's lots of other ways of protecting yourself, and it's worth Googling it and having a look around, because there are some jackets as well that offer built-in protection as well. The only negative, of course, with that is the case you can't detach. So if you were to do small sword with that jacket, you are going to be going in with your elbow padded up and a heavier arm guard built in, which for small sword isn't really needed. However, if you're not going to do small sword, that may be the jacket for you. So it's worth looking around. We've only shown you a very, very small percentage of what's on offer, and the majority of it is Red Dragon or Spez, when there are lots of other products that those two companies make, and lots of other companies. So,
yeah, well, I think that brings to a conclusion this second part of our two-part series on protective equipment. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. We'll be bringing you some more videos shortly, and hopefully once this pandemic is over, we'll be bringing you some more in-depth sparring videos. So until then, please do stay safe, like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.